Thank you for joining us today. Once again, we'll be taking a look at how the construction industry is being impacted by COVID-19 as the pandemic continues to bear down. Only this time, we will talk to our experts and take a closer look at Washington State. I would like to welcome back Dan Pomfrett, our Vice President of Forecasting and Analytics, as well as Bill Foulkes, who has more than 30 years of program management and development under his belt. Bill also happens to oversee some of our most high-profile projects in the Pacific Northwest, ones that are being impacted daily and have been since this started. This should really be an interesting conversation. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. So before we delved into Washington State, I wanted to just give an overall quick update in terms of the construction market as we see across the US. And for those that joined our last webinar, you'll see this graph that's shown there on the screen currently. To be familiar to you, and you'll see here that we've actually added a couple of states now to the construction list as non-essential. So recently, Vermont and New Jersey got added into the mix. And you'll even see that the states that have no or local restrictions has also changed as well. But of course, it's a continually developing situation that we're monitoring on a daily basis. So as we delve into Washington State, I want to go into a few more details about what's happening in the local market, and then go on to our Q&A session with Bill. But generally now what we're seeing at the moment is that the trend for Washington State in Q1 2020 was that construction was contracting, and we're seeing something similar happening, obviously, with the compounding effect of COVID. But what is quite interesting is that you'll see here that healthcare and higher education are actually sectors that look like they're growing at the moment, and it's really other sectors such as residential, manufacturing, and in some part commercial that are reducing and contracting, which is driving those figures into the minus or into the negative. Cost of living is increasing, continuing despite all the issues, and that's putting a pressure on the labour market. And what we're also seeing as well is that as the market and as the sectors reach out to a wider field, wider geographic reach of getting labour to the market, what we're seeing is that isn't actually driving down costs significantly, because then we've got to factor in things like utilisation, people travelling to work, for example, and all those kind of things that really drive into the cost. And so even with the labour pool that's there at the moment, it's really stretched, and that's really what's pushing cost into the positive. So the next slide here shows a snapshot of the industry, and this is available on our C-Corp Insights website as well. But you'll see here that we have the figures that show construction volume previously over the last 3 or 4 years, and then some projections for the next 3 years as well. As I mentioned in the last webinar, we're expecting that in Q1 2021, we're actually expecting the market to return to somewhat where the expectations were. But you can see here again that we're expecting Washington State to be a relatively stable market. And again, you can see the details here about the various sectors and how they're expanding and contracting as well. So we've been over the coronavirus updates for the nationwide, and obviously touched on Washington State specifically. So now I'd like to move into the Q&A portion of this webinar, and with me, as we mentioned before, is Bill Foulkes, our expert for the region. Bill, thanks again for taking the time to join us.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So jumping straight in. So the first question we have is that Washington State was one of the first to issue a shelter-in-place or state of emergency. What's the current situation there now?
You're exactly right, Daniel. Washington was one of the first places to have issue such orders. King County, where Seattle's located, actually issued one in early March. That was extended by the governor to the entire state of Washington in mid-March. And more recently, the governor has extended that stay home, stay safe order through May 4th. We're certainly anticipating that may be extended further.
Okay, and how's the construction industry been impacted there?
Construction industry has definitely been impacted. I think some of the initial orders did not hinder any of the construction. However, when the governor issued his order on March 25th, that limited construction to critical essential facilities. And so that's definitely shown a number of projects that have been stopped because they're not deemed essential. Right now, the contractors are working somewhere in the 80% range. So quite a few of their projects are being considered essential projects.
Okay. And how's been the general response from the owners and contractors? Has it been generally positive approach or response from them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the things that have come out of the governor's order for essential projects are interesting. First of all, the owners are and have been issuing essential work letters to both the contractors and individual workers. We've actually heard of workers being pulled over by police officers asking why they are out and about, and they've been able to show the letters to be able to be deemed essential workers that are on their way to those essential projects. I think one of the other things that has happened there is that most construction continues. However, we have seen one major local contractor selling that actually closed its doors for 2 weeks because of COVID-19.
Oh, wow. And with Washington State, reportedly, as with some other locations in the US, hitting the curve, what are the contractors and owners doing about preparing about going back to work?
Sure. I think we're seeing a lot of planning happen right now, especially amongst the owners whose workers are going to be coming back into place. I think what we've seen is that that workplace is probably going to be a little bit different, but it's also going to have additional COVID-19 type requirements, including PPE equipment. Specifically, some employers are going to be requiring masks to be worn by all employees. I think we're also seeing thermal scanning and plexiglass, lots of plexiglass dividers to help with social distancing.
Yeah. And how do you think, I mean, it's a bit difficult for any of us to tell, but how do you think this will change the local market moving forward? Obviously, we'll be utilizing a lot of, Microsoft Teams and other platforms, but how do you see that sort of moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all had our fill of all the different types of online meetings. Certainly we've been able to struggle through it and seen a lot of smiling faces on video cameras that we haven't seen before. But I think one of the things that I've seen with my team up there, as well as owners, is that they've grown to learn and appreciate the fact that in-person meetings are still an important part of the day-to-day project work.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then one final question, just on labor, because that has been sort of one of the industry challenges, should we say, over the last sort of 12 months or so. And the availability of skill set. How do you see the COVID virus affecting that, or maybe it doesn't affect that?
Sure. No, I think there's definitely going to be an impact, and as you mentioned earlier, there was pre-COVID some slowing in the greater Seattle market area, and I think and that's really as a result of a number of kind of major high-rise projects completing and not having additional high-rise projects beginning. We still have a few mega projects and then lots of small project work that's going on. We're definitely going to see a surge of need post-COVID, because I think there's going to be a lot of work that has to happen that's kind of built up work. But I would see that kind of flattening out and us probably seeing a little bit more of a decline late this year, beginning of next year, because of that kind of getting over the hump of being shut down, as well as some of the other economic factors that you know very well.
Excellent, fantastic. Well, thank you. That's our time. So thanks very much for again joining us on this webinar and provide us your insights. And thank you very much.
Absolutely, thank you, Daniel.